Hey everyone, and welcome to the Monday, October 21st, 2024 meeting of the Village Council for the Village of Yellow Springs for our regular meeting. Judy, if you could call the roll.
Stokes.
I am here.
DeVore Leonard.
Here.
Brown. Here. Hausch.
Here.
Gustafson. Here. Also present is Village Manager Johnny Burns, Planning and Zoning Administrator Meg Leatherman, Village Solicitor Amy Blankenship, Project Lead Elise Giardulo, and Finance Director Michelle Robinson.
Good to see you all. Do we have any announcements?
Sure, I'll kick it off. And I'm sure everyone's wanting to hear about Halloween, so I'll leave that to Johnny. But I do want to mention that we've got a couple birthdays since our last meeting. Judy Kittner celebrated by eating some yummy food, I heard. And it was just Trisha's birthday yesterday. Happy birthday, Trish. Happy birthday. Today, Casey Altz, for those of you who know the Casey, and also former assistant village manager, John Young, is celebrating a birthday today.
Wow, way to stay in touch, too.
I just popped up. I was like, wow. So, lots of birthdays. I wanted to give super kudos to our village manager, Johnny Burns, and also Chris Bongiorno, who is chairing our Yellow Springs Active Transportation Committee. They presented to the region at the Active Transportation Committee, did an amazing job of highlighting all the great projects that we've done. It's always cool to see when Johnny starts talking about infrastructure and how to get things done. People really respond well to that. And we had over 40 people in the room, and it included a walk down to our multimodal path. Dorothy Mitzi, some of our other Active Transportation Committee members were there as well. So Johnny, thanks again for representing the village really well, and to Chris Bongiorno. It was very cool. By the way, October is Walking Month, and we are starting to promote that we will be doing a walking audit with Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission on November 15th from 3 to 5:30, and there will be snacks. It's one of the things Dorothy likes to keep me reminding everyone of. But a walking audit, in this case, is going to focus on downtown, look for new opportunities to improve safety and infrastructure in line with updating our active transportation plan. Any and everyone is invited. We want a real diverse mix, so we're going to have some village team members, hopefully some police officers, some active transportation people, but we also need users of all ages and abilities. And so there'll be an ad in the YS News. We'll also be promoting that on social and on the website, and we're hoping to have a good crew so that we can divide up into a couple different teams. Kevin and I got to visit the Springfield Haitian Help and Support Center, and that was a really great interaction. One of the things that they mentioned is villagers are invited on Sunday. They have church services at their support center, and I saw a bunch of instruments set up. It looks like it would be a really great interaction, and we want to continue to encourage folks to support our neighbors. And Springfield, we're officially dropping off the resolution that we passed at the joint meeting, and yeah, it was just really nice to interact with their leadership. And Glass Farm Workday is this Saturday for anybody that wants to get outdoors and during this beautiful weather, 2 to 4 p.m. I know I went in the spring, and it was not easy to plant things in the clay, but it was definitely good to be out with folks. So I know that if you are interested, there's more information through the Tecumseh Land Trust website and Facebook page. And with that, Johnny, do you want to say anything about our Halloween activities?
We have Trunk or Treat. It's on October 24th here at the Bryant Center from 4 to 6. And then we have the normal Halloween on October 31st from 6 to 8 with all the bonfires.
Nice. Cool.
All right, any other announcements? Great. Well, Brian, thanks for all of those, and Johnny, thank you for your update. Excuse me. We're now at the part of the agenda where we consider our consent agenda. In the consent agenda, we have the minutes of the September 25th special meeting, that joint school board council meeting. Judy, I was wondering if we could just do one motion for all of these? Nope, we still want to do individual. All right. I was trying to get up on my Robert's.
No, you're trying.
I was trying to get up on my Robert's rules.
Catch up on the time there, but
Yeah, okay, good enough. Regarding the minutes of our special meeting, can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of approving those minutes, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you very much. That motion is passed. Then we have the minutes of our last regular meeting from October 7th, 2024. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, all those in favor of approving those minutes, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, hearing none, that motion has passed. And finally, the credit card statement for the month of September. May I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
There we go. All those in favor of approving the September monthly credit card statement, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, hearing none, that motion is passed. Thank you very much for your support. We're now reviewing the agenda as we look over the agenda, as we've had it for a few days. Is there anything on the agenda that we need to add or remove? All right. Seeing no activity, we will continue to walk through the agenda as it is published. Gavin, if you could, please share petitions and communications.
Yeah, the clerk will receive and file Bob Huston regarding the support for the Tecumseh Land Trust funding request, Julia Lee with concerns related to the Gaunt Park property for rec soccer, Mayor's clerk with the mayor's monthly report, and Randolph related to support also for the Tecumseh Land Trust funding request, Carmen Brown with the low-income housing tax credit impediments, and Dino Pallotta with opposition to the low-income housing tax credit efforts.
All right, thank you very much, Kevin. Appreciate that. Excuse me, as we move into public legislation, we do have several second readings and an emergency reading. And the chair will entertain a motion to read those ordinances or the legislation by title only.
So moved.
Second.
I heard a motion and a second. All in favor of reading the legislation by title only, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, hearing none, we will, for the most part, go through the legislation by title only, with this one exception. Judy, this is again the second reading for Ordinance 2024-11, and if you could read that in full, please.
all right, this is rezoning one parcel totaling 3.612 acres of property located at 420 East Enon Road from low-density residential RA district to high-density residential RC district and amending the zoning map accordingly. Whereas the Planning Commission, following a public hearing and deliberations on September 10th, 2024, recommended approval of an application submitted by Yellow Springs Exempted Village School District, which requested that the official zoning map for the Village of Yellow Springs be amended from RA, low-density residential, to RC, high-density residential for the property located at 420 East Enon Road with the Greene County Parcel ID number, very much numbers. Now, therefore, Council for the Village of Yellow Springs, Ohio hereby ordains that Section 1, Village Council accepts the Planning Commission recommendation and approves the rezoning with map amendment from RA, low-density residential, to RC, high-density residential for the property consisting of 3.612 acres located at 420 East Enon Road with Greene County Parcel ID number, again long numbers, as more particularly described in the map attached here to is Exhibit A and legal description attached here to is Exhibit B. Section 2, the zoning administrator is directed to update the official zoning map maintained and kept on file by the zoning administrator pursuant to Village Code Section 1242.02. Section 3, this ordinance shall take effect and be in full force at the earliest date permitted by law.
All right, can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second?
All right, thank you very much. Meg, are you going to talk to us about this? Sure. Thank you.
Yeah, Meg Leatherman, Planning and Zoning Administrator. So Judy just read the actual ordinance, and just now it has a lot of some of the information. I'm just going to highlight a little bit more about the application. Again, on September 10th, the Planning Commission voted 4-0 to approve the rezone request, which is technically called in our code a zoning map amendment for the 3.612 acres at 420 East Enon Road. The Planning Commission is a recommending body in this situation, and then the council got a copy of that recommendation at the October 7th meeting as the first reading of the ordinance. And then this is the second reading tonight and the required public hearing for the rezone request. The code outlines 3 different options for the council to consider on this decision, and specifically from 1280.03G, it says the council shall hold a public hearing and decide on one of these 3 options. One is to adopt the amendment request as presented by the Planning Commission, to modify the proposed amendment by amending the ordinance, or deny the amendment as presented to you. So the Planning Commission report is provided, was provided to you on October 7th and also in tonight's memo packet for everyone and online. It provides a pretty thorough analysis of the applicable code and findings associated with the Planning Commission's approval. Just to highlight that the property, again, is presently zoned RA, but it's also in the Gateway Overlay Zone. That would not change and stay in that, should it be approved. Also, the school board adopted a resolution authorizing submittal of this. So again, the application and the applicant in this scenario is the school board. And currently, a development plan does not exist for this project in this location. The rezone request is solely being sought to prepare the property for future residential applications, and specifically affordable housing. So should the rezone get approved, subsequent zoning applications would be submitted, and who would be the reviewing body or authority depends on the specifics of what's proposed on the site. So the request is in line with the Village Comprehensive Plan that's adopted by the council, and so staff recommends approval since it's in line with that and the applicable review criteria. And I'll stand for any questions.
Council, any direct questions for Meg? Well, Meg, I do want to thank you for the report and for the hard work, the heavy lift that you and Planning Commission have done to get us to this point regarding this particular piece of legislation. Since this is a second reading, we are going to open a public hearing. We will invite members of the public to come up and share their thoughts about this ordinance. Just want to highlight a couple of things that Meg shared. Again, starting with thanking the Planning Commission for all the work that they've done to get us to this point. And as we move further down the line to an effort to develop this land, as Meg just advised us, there will be other opportunities to change, to make changes to the property as appropriate. This property is currently residential. It's RA, and it's moving to residential C. So it's not perhaps the way that some people might think that it's educational, and we're moving it, doing a bigger move, going from educational to residential. But it's residential now, and we're taking this step as a preparatory step so that it would be more appropriate for not just low-income housing, but higher density, whether it's, the a LIHTC project, and I tried not to even say LIHTC while I was talking about this, but it slipped. I think I've said enough, but this is just a step along the way that council has said that we would engage in to keep the process moving. I will just make a brief reference to Carmen's letter, that we are facing some impediments. Information also from Home Inc. suggests that it's certainly a big lift to get to the end of the journey, if you will. But having said that, I will offer council once again an opportunity to speak before we invite residents to come up. All right, seeing no activity, if anyone from the public during this public hearing would like to come up and share comments about the rezoning of this parcel from, I see your hand, Mitzi, rezoning from RA to RC, which is all we are doing. You are invited to come up. So Mitzi, I thought I saw your hand. Just Mitzi, I saw Mitzi first. You come right up.
I'm sorry. Hi, my name is Mitzi Miller. I'm a resident of Yellow Springs. Does rezoning this property from low density to high density affect the value of the land? And has the appraiser been notified of this possible change? The village and the school board has spent a great deal of time and energy moving very quickly through this process. It makes no sense to me and others to proceed with rezoning when you still don't know if incumbencies can be removed. This feels like putting the cart before the horse, which can lead to distrust and resentment by some villagers. Please reconsider the direction you are moving when you do not have all the details at hand. Thank you.
Thank you, Mitzi. Pam, come on, stand up, identify yourself, please.
Hi, I'm Anya Sinatra. I'm the Director of Mental Health and Prevention Services for the Greene County Educational Service Center. I appreciate the opportunity to share. I do oppose shifting the land from...
Can you repeat your name, please? Can you repeat your name?
Anya Sinatra.
Thank you.
I do oppose having the land shifted from low density to high density. As a provider of supportive services to students at the Learning Center and working with families for my entire career, both here and in Chicago, families, I see firsthand some of the struggles that families who are housing insecure and would benefit from high-density housing experience, and those who live on the margins who would benefit from a project of affordable housing and high-density housing. But living on the margins, and the term of living on the margins is both an expression and a reality. Often families who experience housing insecurity have other things that are coupled, like food insecurity, transportation barriers, and layers in just daily struggles. While affordable housing, I feel, is not just a want, but a need for Yellow Springs and a lot of communities in our area, I feel that placing high-density housing, affordable housing, at the margins of Yellow Springs community really brings expression and life to the idea of people living on the margins. The site places families who desperately may need resources far away from those resources. Having families live that far away from the center of the community of Yellow Springs would limit their access to the things that they struggle with the most. And that would be ready access to services, to food, to shopping, places of worship, social services, the Bryant Center here. That's not a walkable thing for families if they're living right on that very busy corner. High density and affordable housing in this space, while it is solving one problem, I feel is creating other problems, including being able to find space that we all have enjoyed for soccer. My kids have played soccer there for years. The community uses it all of the time. And I think that you heard from our director, Brad Pallotta, about some of the impact that not having that open space for the students at the Learning Center will definitely have on their experience and some of their growth. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Anya. Dirk?
Hi, I'm Dirk. Is this on?
It is.
Okay. Dirk Lakovich Van Gorp, village resident. Let me just preface my comments on this particular aspect of the affordable housing discussion related to this rezoning. I'm not in favor of the rezoning, but yet I'm a lifetime professional working in affordable housing. You will find no larger advocate for affordable housing than me, and I hope that many of you match that, and I feel that you probably do. My primary concern is related to the ESC and the various comments that have been given by ESC staff over the past month or more, that overall situating a high-density housing location next to the ESC is not going to be conducive to the best educational services that they can provide to their students. I would challenge the village council that in keeping with our village values and ethics, we need to be committed to the services that the ESC provides, not just to our own children in this community, but the fact that they provide the same services to many children on the margin or most vulnerable in all of Greene County. So to me, it's fairly simple. If this is not conducive to allowing the ESC to provide the best and highest quality educational services to the children that they serve in this community in Greene County, then we have to seek an alternative location, and therefore the rezoning should not be approved. And that's pretty much what I have to say on this rezoning application.
Thank you, Dirk. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Rita Amras. I'm a resident of the village. I was a resident for about 25 years, left for a while, and now I've returned. So when my children grew up here, they could safely get to school and around town by themselves pretty much at a pretty young age. They could also go to school safely, but that world doesn't exist anymore. So I'm asking you to please reject the zoning change that would allow high-density development on our school grounds. High-density developments right on the school campus present some real concerns. Safety of our kids, for one, with a large increase of traffic in an already busy area, and how many of the kids that, walk and ride bikes to school. Also concerning is a very large increase in an unvetted population that would have immediate access and close access to the schools. These concerns are more worrisome, it seems to me, with the addition of the 5th and 6th grade levels to the campus out there. They are young kids, they're 10 and 11, and even more vulnerable. And perhaps even more at risk, even, are our many children that attend ESC. Another concern to me is the loss of school property. The land is currently heavily used by the school and the community, mostly maintained by community members, and it's all for the benefit of the kids. And so then where's the consideration for the future needs of our schools? We're about to experience already a big increase in population with the 90-home development in Spring Meadows and all the development apartments being developed around the Antioch College. So the school system could possibly need this land for its needs. So I don't know if that's been considered. So I hope you reflect on the seriousness of the concerns and reject the zoning change at this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dino, Pallotta, resident. I just have a quick housekeeping parliamentary question regarding Mr. Hausch. I know you donated on the GoFundMe as a citizen. Then that money for the Yellow Springers, for more Yellow Springers, and that money has moved over for, it may have moved over for, it appears it may have moved over for part of the application fee for this rezoning. Is that something that you need to recuse yourself on? That was it. Just parliamentary question. Thanks.
Thank you, Dino. Terry.
Hello. Terry Gravestreeter, Superintendent, Greene County ESC. The situation with the zoning and the possible affordable housing made me think of a situation I was in several years ago. I was a special ed administrator in another school district. Our administrative team determined we should embark on reconfiguring the district for several reasons. The superintendent allowed us, the team of principals, directors, supervisors, and others, to do research and present our findings to the community. Several of us were very committed to making the change a reality. When we set about having the conversations with parents and other community members, we found that there was some definite opposition to us making this change. We had focused on the economic, the academic, and the logistical side for making the move. We had not thought of things from the lens of the community regarding personal and family issues. This made us rethink a few things. Many of us still believe we should pursue the cause as we thought it made the most sense for the district. After much contemplation, our longtime superintendent, a very well-respected school administrator, determined that we were not going to pursue this change due to the increased resistance to it. He said that it was not worth pushing it, as enough people in the community would be upset, and this would lead to long-term consequences for the district. My fellow administrators and I were disappointed. But when he explained the whys behind the decision, we knew he was right. I appreciate his leadership then and now, as he was able to see beyond the here and now and look into the future for what could happen if we continue to push. I liken this scenario to the current situation here. It is evident this may be a good project for Yellow Springs. However, it is being considered in the wrong place, for the wrong place. The Greene County ESC is now considered to officially be a county school financing district, which puts us in the same category as the village, according to Revised Code 3313.41. And the ESC, as the closest neighbor to the soccer fields, is adamantly opposed to the proposed change from low density to high density. Based on information we have received over the last 2 months, we believe the majority of the community would concur with this opinion. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you, Terry.
Thanks, Terry.
Yes.
Hello, Rebecca Potter, school board vice president and village resident. And I'm speaking because Judith Hempfling, the school board president, couldn't be here tonight. I just wanted to address some points that have been raised. And first of all, thank you all for considering the school board's application to have this property rezoned from RA to RC. As you recall, the village was pursuing the LIHTC effort, and the school board partnered, the school district partnered with you in that. We passed a resolution, which you're aware of, and this was part of that resolution, to subdivide 3.6 acres and to go through a rezoning process, which we have. There was a question raised about the lien removal being premature, and in fact, that needed to happen simultaneously. So that process is still moving forward. The placement, there has been some concern about that. As you all are aware, there's a wide sidewalk multi-use path that connects now that part of the village to the center of the village. I've ridden it many times going to the school. And our 5 through 12 campus, even though it is going to be on, has been on the edge of town, is still very much a center of the community and a place of tremendous community life. The heavy use of Morgan Fields, of course, has been of considerable concern for the school board and the school district administration. We are committed to making sure that if this goes forward, replacement fields for similar use would be a reality. We have, however, received maps from the superintendent that show that practice fields for high school soccer, particularly high school girls soccer, are not affected by the splitting off of the 3.6 acres. The primary effect is on rec soccer. Also, the last point, just to note, with regards to student population, according to the Treasurer's report in 2018, school population was 729 students. Today, it is 637 students, a drop approaching 100 students. It had an uptick from last year to this year, but we also have 30% of our students out of district. We'd like to see those students, those families, be able to come to Yellow Springs. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Yes, sir. And then Emily.
Joshua Zinger, I live here. I'm opposed to the rezoning. I have coached at the Morgan Fields for years. I've coached some of your children there. I've coached my own children there. I've coached club there, and I know that it's not just the club kids or the soccer kids who use those fields. I know that a housing development that close to not one but two different schools is, in my opinion, a potential recipe for disaster. I mean, it's just a bad idea. I'm opposed to the rezoning, and I just wanted to make that known.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Hi, I'm Emily Seibel. I'm the Executive Director of Yellow Springs Home Inc. And I wasn't planning on speaking, but I just thought it would be important as a local affordable housing advocate to present an alternate viewpoint. Obviously, we've been very supportive of a win-win and are very encouraged to see this public, sometimes challenging public dialogue taking places between institutions. We know that there is a tremendous need for affordable housing in Yellow Springs. I believe that the housing needs assessment from 2018, which is the most recent data we have, shows pent-up demand for over 200 affordable rental units to people of low to moderate income. We at Yellow Springs Home Inc. receive multiple calls every week with people, some of whom are in crisis and in desperate situations, who are seeking affordable housing and being priced out of the community. We also know that there are a lot of kids in the schools where parents are driving in, and that poses a lot of barriers to strengthening the fabric of our community, but also to quality of life. There are over 350 households on our rental interest list for affordable apartments. That number goes up quite regularly. And, you know, I think the reason we brought this to your attention initially over a year ago is because it's really our duty to tell you when there is a funding opportunity. The points are what they are, and so hopefully this isn't a situation where the perfect will be the enemy of the good and the achievable. I did want to say, in terms of unvetted residents, there will be background checks performed on potential residents. There are some, I think that St. Mary has already weighed in on like some of the rules around this, but there will certainly be some vetting. And also, I think after the last council meeting, I offered to meet and listen to the leadership of the ESC, and that offer is very much still on the table. Obviously, you're very, very important stakeholders, and it would be, I would welcome the opportunity, just as someone who works in affordable housing locally, to talk about it. For example, the proximity to amenities. You know, I think the first iteration of this, and certainly Home Inc. projects, have over 10 service coordination MOUs. That's super important. There's a whole series of listening sessions that would take place with key stakeholders should this formally move forward. This is a rare funding opportunity. It's also, the site is also along the Green Cats route in addition to the public path. And for most rural funding pools, You get points for proximity to amenities if you're within 5 miles, just to put that in perspective. So this is closer. Again, we are really interested in supporting the will of the community, but I just felt like this was an important time to share some additional perspective. And I've gotten the insight from Johnny that it's important for us not to speak during the RFQ section of the agenda tonight. And so I'll remain silent on that, but I just want to reiterate that our commitment as Yellow Springs Home Inc. is to Yellow Springs, not to any particular developer. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
The terms in affordable housing and low-income housing seem to be used interchangeably, but my understanding is that's not so. There are different income levels for affordable housing and low-income housing.
We are going to get to that later when the RFP comes up, because this is really rezoning and not about affordable housing. Hard to tell, but it is about rezoning.
Thank you, Judy. Any other public comments?
Hi, I'm Jackie Hempling, resident, also have kids in the schools, and support affordable housing in Yellow Springs. So, of course, wanted to say that rezoning the property is really a first step, doesn't cost any money, and absent it, the project essentially would have no path forward. A lot of concerns have been raised about increasing having a dense development next to 2 schools, but of course there's pretty high density around Mills Lawn Elementary School, and I don't think that people generally regard that as a bad thing. Beyond that, I mean, it's also closer to the business district. Basically, while the ESC certainly has the right to raise concerns, I'm not sure that the concerns that they've raised necessarily make all that much sense. There will still be plenty of space, open space, directly adjacent to the ESC that they could continue to use. The development doesn't take up the entirety of Morgan Fields. And yeah, I hope that you support this rezoning application. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Additional public comments? Council, I'm going to give us another opportunity to speak, and I do want to make a couple of comments that I forgot. I'm sorry.
Public hearing.
Yes, the public hearing is now closed. Thank you. Thanks again. Judy, I don't know where I would be without you. So the public hearing is closed, and again, I want to bring the discussion back to the dais. My colleagues will, again, ask you to share your concerns. Brian, I would just ask that you would consider Dino's point. I don't know all of the...
I've considered it. I've talked to our village solicitor. There's no ethical or other violation. We all, as elected officials, support nonprofits in our community, and in fact, it is our duty as elected officials to advocate for things that improve quality of life for our constituents. So yeah, I have 0 concerns. So,
okay.
Thanks.
Sure. Any other comments from council? So, a couple of these comments I'm going to make, I did not have prepared notes when I spoke earlier, but I was reminded of a couple of things. First of all, I am sensitive to the concerns raised by ESC staff. I know that there was no, I understand that there was no intention on anyone's part for the ESC to be excluded from earlier conversations about this project. I think they became aware of it after several months of activity. So I am certainly sensitive to those concerns. As I also understand it, this rezoning effort is part of the process, but it might be considered premature, not in a negative, just that based on the timeline, if this ordinance were to fail tonight, it could be brought back as late as we approach December 1st, if I'm not mistaken, Johnny. Everybody, just keep me honest. Did you
say that again, Kevin?
If the ordinance were to fail tonight, in terms of the timeline for when the rezoning must happen, we have until right before December 1st.
Well, it has to go to the Planning Commission.
Yeah, and you would then have to pass it as an emergency, which might not be a popular approach.
Well, it does take 20 days, I think, or 30 days.
You want to come to the mic, please, Meg, if you don't mind. And while Meg coming up, for some of the concerns that folks have, we could rezone this now and LIHTC not happen or stop because of some other, I've been using the phrase exit ramp. There are exit ramps where council, I would submit, would consider, a potential hard stop in terms of our level of activity. But if we could just go ahead and talk to the timeline and rezoning.
So the thought would be that if you didn't approve it, it would be completely denied? Is that what the question was?
No, could it?
Or be sent back? Because you have the option of approving it, like amending it, and sending it back to potentially the Planning Commission for specific reasons to modify, or denying it.
Mm-hmm. So, again.
The other option you have is to table it. If you turn down, if the ordinance is rejected, you will have to find a new reason to bring a rezoning ordinance. I don't know that you'd be able to come up
So the
with
option of not making a decision and just continuing it to a subsequent meeting, is that what?
Yes, and you can't table indefinitely. It's usually one meeting is the standard. So.
And that's a potential too. Time frame wise for everything else, if it's continued, I think that probably would be better, like Judy was saying, because, but really, the time frame is kind of hard to imagine it all being accomplished so quickly anyways. So, for me to continue the project moving forward, the more we have done, the better to keep it moving forward. But assuming because that's what our direction has been to this point from council, has been to continue to move the project forward. So thinking through that lens, it would not be ideal. We really should not continue it anymore, because we also have to enter into like a purchase sale agreement with the school district, assuming that the lien documents come back on time. So those are two kind of things that are kind of decision points that need to be made pretty soon. The lien documents being released, everything on the liens being addressed, and then the purchase sale agreement with the school district. And having the rezone also thrown into the middle of that, I think just is not ideal. I'm sure it could still happen.
And do we know if we've submitted to the bank, et cetera, the lien documents, and when they might be coming back? Tag team, y'all gotta pop hands, don't you?
Pass the baton. Hi, good evening.
Hi.
Amy Blankenship, Village Solicitor. So to answer your question directly and to sort of pull us back into what we're here to talk about on this particular ordinance, right? You're just discussing the rezoning of the school's property at this point. Nothing bigger, no bigger LIHTC considerations. Absolutely. Now I understand that your question is certainly
considering that, right, in terms of like the timeline and all of it. So yes, tabling the ordinance tonight is perfectly legitimate. You can table it if you don't, if you would like to get a little bit more time between application deadline and the rezoning, you could certainly do that. In terms of denying it tonight and bringing it back, we've got timelines in our codified ordinances that require 20-day notice before something can go to Planning Commission. So it's tricky. It would be challenging to try to bring something back, bring a rezoning back and have it voted on by December 1st. That would be a very challenging timeline. Not impossible, but challenging. And so, yeah, so I think that the best option, if you are, besides what your rezoning options are, which are modify and approve, deny, send back to Planning Commission for further review and recommendation. Besides those three options, the other option would be to table it to the next meeting.
Thank you.
And, since I'm up here.
Yeah.
We are, for the purposes of a rezoning, right, we are squarely within that particular section of our zoning code, 128002 and 128003. And there's not just a process set forth in there, but also the considerations that council should be looking at for the determination of a rezoning. It's all in your packet.
Regarding Meg mentioned the, whatever the documents are called that were sent or will be sent to BAM, et cetera. A, have those gone out, and B, do we have any idea about how long that process could take?
At the risk of sounding like a broken record, we're right now considering just the rezoning ordinance, but since that consideration does impact your decision-making here, the documents have been submitted to U.S. Bank and to BAM for their consideration. I have no timeline in terms of when the consideration, that we might hear back from them.
Got you. Thank you very much. And I think that's all for now, but stay nimble, stay loose.
Always.
There's a lot more I could say, but I'm not going to say it. What I am going to do is make a motion to table this item until our next meeting. Can I get a second? Hearing no second, that motion has failed. Yes.
Yeah, I'm just, I guess, in the position where I'm supportive of it. I think the pros outweigh the cons. I don't personally want to draw it out. Like, if we don't have 3 votes to do this, I think we all know that we don't have support to do the project. So I understand the desire to not make a hard decision, but I guess I'd rather go forward. So I think I'm pretty clearly on the record as being supportive. So that's why I would like us to talk about it, and if there's more discussion, great, but I'd rather make a decision now than to table it. I don't know, unless there's something that, I haven't heard anything that we would learn next time. It just feels like it'd be kicking the can.
Yes, it would 100% be kicking the can. I will be honest about that, and it's allowing some of these other things to take place. And so now I feel inclined to say the things I wasn't going to say. I've heard a lot of comments. Let me say it this way. If someone just gave us $15 million, this property is not where we would put an apartment complex. I have no relationship with the school board, but if I were the school board with the levy approaching, I would not be entangling myself with this at this time. I have said that I'd like for Village Council to keep this process going forward and not ourselves be an impediment to the process. And so I feel the need to stay true to that. That's why I'd be more comfortable again tabling it, just so that some of these other things could come to fruition. and I guess I want to repeat that. If someone just gave us $15 million, this intersection next to Green Educational Service Center is not the location that we would select. I'm happy that I've not heard the phrase opportunity of a lifetime about this anymore, because I don't believe that it is. I would prefer to have tabled it just to get down the road again and let these other things happen. But because I have also stated my commitment that I would like for council to take this as far as we can. There are some exit ramps, natural or artificial, where I would lobby for us pulling out, one of which would be the amount of money that we've decided to spend, and I am not inclined to move from that personally. So I am torn, and I really do want to stop talking. Again, I would have preferred to kick it down the road and again let these other things happen, but I don't feel like we should stop it now because of the commitments we've made to take it as far as we can. And I just want to emphasize that there are potential exit ramps where I would lobby for council to pull back and allow someone else to either run with the ball or allow circumstances to come to the fore where a better location could be found. Once again, anything else from council?
I guess I'll say a few things. Okay. Okay, so the first thing I want to highlight is I don't want us to forget that, generally we listen to recommendations from Planning Commission and staff, and so we've got a recommendation from Planning Commission and some comments from Meg that I think are useful in terms of moving forward. And I think it's very clear that there are no legal reasons why we would not move forward with this rezoning. So we've got some political things that we're kind of dancing around. I also want to iterate that the school board has not changed their position. They've not asked us to table this, and so I guess I'd suggest maybe that shouldn't be a consideration in our decision. And then the last thing I want to mention is, and I think Gavin addressed it a little bit, but I will say we have definitely been listening to concerns from the Educational Services Center or Service Center, and some of the folks that, some of the, I guess, concerns that citizens have also raised related to that. As soon as I heard about this, I reached out to Superintendent Terry Graves-Streeter to really understand directly what the concerns were. I want to highlight that we've addressed several of these over the past couple months since this was brought to our attention. One of them being that the safety concerns that have been raised by different folks, and we've talked about that there are processes, if this were to move forward, that can address concerns around either resident safety or student safety, and we do that all the time. We've gotten confirmation that the Affordable Family Rentals Project would not impact the space that the ESC is currently using for outdoor play. And I do want to reiterate what I heard someone say, might have been Emily, around the access. This is going to be a lot closer than if someone was living on the south side in terms of walking downtown. It's not a long walk. The schools are part of our community, but having that multimodal path, having the Green Cat system, having other affordable housing that's actually very close by, that Home Inc. Established, I think all that's really important. And I think the last thing would be that There have been thoughts around potential ESC expansion that have been addressed as well. We want to accommodate all of those, and I will say that if we do get lucky and this moves forward, that I will want to have the ESC in that community at the table, but I don't see anything that has changed the fact that we can have all of the above, and we've made a lot of commitments around moving this project forward.
Trish?
So I am in support of this project. I'm just not in support of the location. One, we've indicated that we wanted to see the soccer fields being held. Terry Holden has said that she wants to have equal land for equal land, and it keeps shrinking down continually as we move forward. Meg and others have indicated that this timeline is just seemingly impossible. So we continue to spend money, staff time, and it doesn't seem very likely, unfortunately. More and more residents are coming forward and saying that this is going to impact their vote on the school levy, and I think that that is an exceptional concern. I think that we need to take that very seriously. The ESC, I personally took a tour and saw the inside of the building and where the most severe of their population has schooling, and it is directly towards the back of the building, which would be the closest to where the affordable housing project would be. I think that we need to take, as a parent of a child with special needs, and with Owens Place meeting a diverse population and knowing the needs of that group, I think we need to take their input very seriously. And now we have, extreme expenses potentially for creating a soccer field at a new location. These numbers are all over the place, but they are significant. And who's going to pay for that? We haven't even gotten that far yet.
All right, so the President moved that we table. The motion failed. When can we vote?
As soon as we're done discussing.
Does anybody else have anything to say on the days?
I will just reiterate, this is just a small part of the process, and there's a lot more to do after this. Judy, if you could call the roll.
Gustafson. No. Hausch.
Yes.
Brown.
Abstain.
DeVore Leonard.
Yes.
Stokes.
Yes.
Passes.
Judy, if you could read by title only, Ordinance 2024-12.
Accepting Planning Commission recommendation and approving the final plat for Phase 2 of the Spring Meadows subdivision.
Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Johnny, May.
Is this for the Spring Meadows?
Yes, sorry.
Did you read the title and the ordinance again?
I did.
Okay.
Could I read it again, or I did read it in? Do you want it again?
Okay, no. I missed that, I guess.
Just in case you'd forgotten it, I'm happy to.
So this is then the motion then, okay, that's what you were saying, no, this is the motion.
Yeah, I think
for
there was
that.
some confusion in the room on the rezoning ordinance. The rezoning ordinance passed. The motion to approve the ordinance is made at the top of it before we went into any staff report or anything else. So there was a motion to approve in a second, and then that is what council voted on, the motion to approve the rezoning.
Yes, the motions are made by Hausch and DeVore Leonard.
And is there a motion right now?
There is.
Yes.
Hausch to Gustafson. Yes.
I just figure if I don't understand it, maybe others don't. That's the only reason I'm asking.
No, I'm
So,
I'm
okay.
struggling too.
On September 10th, the Planning Commission voted 4-0 to approve the Phase 2 final plat for Spring Meadows subdivision at 402 North Wright Street. In the same way, the Planning Commission is a recommending body for the final plat application, and the Village Council was provided a copy of that recommendation at the last council meeting on October 7th when we had the first reading, and then this is the second reading and the required public hearing for the request. So the village code requires that the village council hold a public hearing at the second reading, which we're doing now, for the final plat, and provides the council with 3 options: approve, approve with conditions, or disapprove. And then I'm just going to give a summary now of the kind of the background on this and what's decided upon by the Planning Commission. So the preliminary plat was approved by the Planning Commission in April of 2022. This is going on for a little while, for 90 lots with 90 single-family homes on 23.02 acres. Subsequently, the subdivision was separated into 2 phases. A Phase 1 final plat was approved by the Planning Commission in October of 2023, and then by the Council on December 4th, 2023. So this is that same process where the preliminary plat comes first for the whole thing. They separated it out, and then they submit the final plat to show how they're in conformance with the preliminary plat and how they're meeting and have installed a lot of the public infrastructure that's required as part of a subdivision. So the final plat application, again, is solely for Phase 2, consists of 35 lots with 34 single-family homes and 1 open space lot on 7.51 acres. All lots are in compliance with the Village Code spatial requirements for the RB zone, except for the requested variation, which was also approved in Phase 1 and was approved by the Planning Commission, which allows a smaller setback, 5 feet on each side, specifically for eve encroachments. Construction of the public improvements for both phases, so sewer, water, electric, and roads, is complete. The applicant did submit a 1-year maintenance bond per our code, guaranteeing maintenance of the improvements per installation specifications. So it's a 1 year that we hold on to that to ensure everything is installed to specifications. The bond was reviewed by Matt Hoying, PE, Choice 1 Engineering, and Village Solicitor, her team. And then basically at this point in the process, the design is set and in place and been constructed. The review is primarily now to ensure that the public improvements have been installed to code and that the development is progressing on schedule. Village staff and Choice 1 have inspected the final plat improvements and has approved of them. They've provided estimates for costs. That's what the bond is based off of that. All fees have been paid and reviewed and approved. And then I just wanted to add that there was a request at the first reading to clarify the open space requirements for the subdivision. Our subdivision section of our code, specifically 122607, requires a specific parkland dedication. That's a code from the term from the code. It's specifically for subdivisions over 5 acres in size. They're required to set aside a parkland dedication. It has to be dedicated for public use and should be used as a park, playground, or other active recreational uses. The code actually includes a really detailed calculation of how much of that is required, but it also allows an option for a payment of fee in lieu of dedicating that amount of parkland. So in Spring Meadows case, that is what a combination of that was agreed upon, where they have a certain amount of a park that was dedicated to the village, and then they agreed to pay for the playground equipment and install that, and then also had set aside open space in Phase 2 and in Phase 1. So that was a negotiated agreement done in 2023, right before I got hired in April, as I was reviewing the notes. Basically, it even said in the subdivider agreement that they recognized that it wasn't the total acreage of land wasn't set aside, but actually also they required them to contribute and pay for the playground equipment to compensate for that. We did review the playground equipment before it was installed as well. They asked for that. And yeah, so just saying that it was previously negotiated, and if we had thoughts on that, maybe we could think about that in the future is what I would suggest. So, and I guess that's all. I'll stand for any questions.
Quickly, just you mentioned the in lieu of the fee, in lieu of...
Oh, sorry, maybe I didn't say it right.
No, I'm just, you did. My question is, did the value of the playground equipment match what the fee would have been? Okay.
Yeah, that's based on, we look at the property value when we do that calculation. So, and then that's the in lieu is calculated based on that.
Okay.
I read your report.
Oh, okay.
Which was very good, thank you. And I know I asked for a little bit more background. I appreciate that.
Yeah, sure, no problem. My pleasure.
Anything else for Meg while she's up?
Thank you.
All right, thanks. Thank you, Meg. All right. It's indoor. We need to open a public hearing. The public hearing is now open. Please identify yourself.
Okay, my name is Eric Clark. I'm a lifelong resident of Yellow Springs and now a current resident of Spring Meadows. We were the first house there. I would like to request that the council consider adding the idea that the conditional, some conditions to the approval via both Fisher Homes, the developer, and the HOA, and to consider that they would be required to follow the rules of the Environmental Commission, which is also in play there. So, and the reason I'm doing that is because I am here to speak on behalf of the current residents of Spring Meadows. However, I'll be speaking mostly as a first person. We are the first home within Spring Meadows and are far beyond happy with our home, our location, and our neighbors. One of the biggest selling points for us was the recreational pond. Even now, the sales force sells Spring Meadows as a pond as one of the community amenities, along with the playground and the walkability. During the October 11th, 22 final plat staff report, the former planning and zoning administrator, Denise Swinger, stated, quote, "The DDC considers the detention pond as part of an open space since it will be available for residents to use for fishing," unquote. In my opinion, the fish should probably not be poisonous, just in case the fish that are caught are also consumed. I have some disagreements with the developers, not to be confused with Fisher Homes, and that they insist that the pond is not a pond, but rather a temporary water storage basin. I've been informed that it is not to be considered a wildlife area, and as a result, they refer to the pond as a decorative feature. As a result, they've been adding copious amounts of unknown chemicals, a very dark greenish blue algae inhibitor, some other unknown chemicals, which have killed all the vegetation around the pond. DDC did explain that most communities, the idea of wildlife, cattails, other vegetation is not a preferred style of pond. However, I believe that the values of the village, or at least the values of the people moving here, have a different idea on how to approach this recreational pond. Even the HOA bylaws specifically encourage fishing. The thought of the pond being a temporary storage basin is not how this area is being sold. Even with the 35-day period of no rain whatsoever, the pond never lost more than about 8 to 12 inches of water. The idea that this is not a wildlife area will be news to the blue herons, the geese, the kingfishers, the hawks, owls, frogs, deer, and the hundreds of fish which we have added to the pond. After DDC's pond management company added a series of chemicals, we had a die-off of many of the fish and a goose, unfortunately. Perhaps coincidentally, all the green and bullfrogs went silent and we've not seen one since. I believe that all the runoff from this pond also goes into the main stormwater drain and into the glen. I understand that algae control is important, however, believe...
I am Jackie Clark. I work at live at 422. I live there too. Anyway, I understand tag team. I understand that the algae control is important. However, I believe that there could be less harmful ways to maintain control and balance of the wildlife and aesthetics. For example, at our expense, we added many algae-eating fish because we knew it was a place you could fish because it said in the HOA.
I also believe that any chemicals introduced into the common areas such as the pond, playground, and other common grounds should be approved by the Environmental Commission per their bylaws. I have photos of the pond management company truck, the chemicals, the dead wildlife, the dead vegetation, which now circles the pond. Thank you for listening. The Clerk family, Spring Meadows, and other people at Spring Meadows. I want the picture. If you email those to me, I would really appreciate it. Eric and I have been exchanging emails.
Hi, Emily Seibel, resident, private citizen. Yeah, I just wanted to say I've been involved with the Yellow Springs, Spring Meadows Facebook group, which is really cool that you set that up. And it has been disturbing as a neighbor, as an immediate neighbor who walks my little tiny dogs around the pond every day and runs into Eric and we talk, to see dead fish bobbing in the pond and know that it's probably spilling into the Glen and that it's poisonous enough to possibly kill a big goose. That doesn't seem like something that we probably want. And so I also really support adding in some kind of condition to the approval tonight to just ensure that I'm not sure how you want to phrase it, but just that to make sure that the fish are still, the pond is able to be used as a recreational pond so that people can fish and that the fish aren't poisonous, I guess is what I would say. And in the, Eric asked me to just look up some of the stuff that had been passed previously, and on October 11th, 2022, in the final plat major subdivision staff report, Denise Swinger clearly states, DDC considers the detention pond as part of the open space since it will be available for residents to use for fishing. And then it goes on to say, in the code, land dedicated for stormwater management shall not count towards open space unless it serves a dual purpose as a recreational or aesthetic feature. The report from 2022 also goes on to say the stormwater management area will allow limited recreational use for fishing, and that's why it was my understanding is that's why it was able to be counted towards open space. So I don't even know if this is a condition of approval or just enforcing what the understanding already is. So thank you for your time and attention. Thanks.
Thank you, Emily. Excuse me. Any other public comments?
Hello, I'm Jonathan Ricketts. I'm a professional engineer that practices in stormwater management. So it's kind of disturbing. I didn't come here for this purpose, but I guess I just shine some light on my professional take in that stormwater features shouldn't be looked at as recreational opportunities. They're there for a purpose. They're there to detain stormwater and treat stormwater, and that's that. So I just recommend that going forward, the council or planning commission or whoever doesn't consider any sort of stormwater infrastructure as a recreational aspect. So thank you.
Thank you.
Entertain comments on this?
Yes, we are. On this ordinance.
My name is Bob Curley. I'm a resident, nearly lifelong. I've been involved in the rec soccer program for more decades than I care to mention. I just want to bring to your attention a few items. One, and I think most of you may know this, but about 12, 13, 14 years ago, Yellow Springs Soccer Incorporated was formed. And we raised 100. Yes.
I'm going to have to stop you because I think you might have confused it with citizen concerns, but we're still in the hearing on a different ordinance.
Oh, is that right? Okay, I'm sorry.
But you are welcome to speak when we come up to citizen concerns.
Yeah, and according to the agenda, we're late. but it's coming. Yeah, it was 6:50 when we were going to get there. So we are still talking about the public hearing is open for the second reading of Ordinance 2024-12, which is approving the final plat for the Spring Meadows subdivision. And as Judy alluded to, we will have citizen concerns after we finish the legislation. So are there any other comments from the public on this particular ordinance? Any comments from staff?
So I believe there was discussion early on that the public comments reflected about it being recreation before, I think it was when the original final plat for all 90 came to public hearing, but that wasn't voted on. Instead, they decided to come back and divide it into two different phases, so actually it was not the actual recorded approval. And then after that, subsequent discussions occurred and there was negotiations between Denise, the former planner, and our attorney and them, and realizing, as the engineer correctly stated, that you really shouldn't use the pond for recreational purposes, so it's not counted towards the recreational value necessarily. I will say it's nice to have behind you like a trail around a park and open space, so they do sell those lots at a higher value for that. And we included it in the report, but when we outlined the open space calculations and the negotiation occurred, it was specifically for the 0.9 acres. If you include in my memo, you'll see like the open space around the pond is, I think, it's 2 acres or something. So the negotiated value for meeting the code was 0.98, and then the dedication of the park to the village and the equipment for the playground. So it ended up being determining, I think there was a communication about, hey, can we use this for recreation? No, you can't. You cannot count that towards your dedicated open space. So that's why it changed and got confusing probably in the minutes and stuff.
Okay, great. Yeah. Thank you, Meg. Hi.
So specifically to the comments about what can and can't be done with the detention basin on site. So what you have in front of you is an ordinance approving a final plat of a subdivision. It's a highly technical process spelled out really specifically in our code. And we're looking at things like widths of streets, meets and bounds descriptions of the properties, widths of lots, depth of lots, very, very technical. Sewer, stormwater, all of that is spelled out on there. But those types of considerations would be more properly considered through the HOA process within the neighborhood, and not on the face of the final plat, which is what you're considering tonight.
Thank you. Amy.
And Amy, you mean in terms of like the pesticide, algicide use and stuff like that?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Yep, thank you.
Yep. Any other public comments? All right, seeing no activity, the public hearing is closed. Council or staff, any other input? All right, seeing none. Judy, if you could call the roll.
DeVore Leonard.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Gustafson.
Yes.
Hausch.
Yes.
Stokes.
Yes.
Thank you.
The motion is passed. If we could now read the second reading by title only, Ordinance 2024-13.
This is repealing Section 238.04 investment policy and enacting new Section 238.04 investment policy of the codified ordinances of the Village of Yellow Springs, Ohio.
Thank you, Judy. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
I'll second. Oh, Brian, second. Michelle,
I can do
Judy.
this one. It's
Okay.
really simple. You changed one tiny little thing. There's a strike through and a bold, which tells you what was changed, and it's simply that it's not reviewed annually, but it is reviewed when recommended by the Finance Committee. That's the only change.
And that makes sense to me. Since it is a second hearing. We will open the floor for the public hearing. So does the public have comments regarding this piece of legislation? Seeing no activity, the public hearing is closed. Council, any questions, comments, concerns? All right, seeing none. Judy, if you do a roll call vote.
Yep. Brown.
Yes.
Hausch.
Yes.
Gustafson.
Yes.
DeVore Leonard.
Yes.
Stokes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Judy, if you could read by title only, second reading of public hearing and ordinance 2024-14.
This is repealing Section 238.06, sale and reinvestment of renewable energy credits, and enacting new Section 238.06, sale and reinvestment of renewable energy credits of the codified ordinances of the Village of Yellow Springs, Ohio.
Thank you, Judy. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right. And who wants to talk about this? All right, Johnny, go.
You can see the changes. I did do a memo, Brian, so you can...
Yeah, thank you for that.
I just want to make sure you guys up to date on what we have spent for the 15% of it. So, basically, it's moving it to as needed for manager's approval to bring it back.
Seems like a convenient way to do it. All right. Where am I? Yep, public hearing. Just trying to find it. Yep, there it is. There's now a public hearing that has now been opened regarding this particular piece of ordinance that deals with how we use the proceeds from our renewable energy credits. Does the public have any comments? Seeing no activity, the public hearing is closed. Council, staff, any questions, comments, concerns? All right, seeing none. Judy, if you could do a roll call vote.
Gustafson.
Yes.
Hausch.
Yes.
DeVore Leonard.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Stokes.
Yes.
Thank you.
We're now down to the emergency reading of ordinance 2024-16. Judy, if you could do that by title only.
This is authorizing the transfer of funds and rescinding ordinance 2024-15 entitled Authorizing the Transfer of Funds and Declaring an Emergency.
Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right. All right, Michelle.
Michelle Robinson, Finance Director. After Brian had posed the question about the Widows Fund, I feverishly went back to my office, double, triple checked my numbers, and they were incorrect on some of them for the transfers. So I figured it would be cleaner, better to just rescind it, have that rescinded, and just start fresh. So that's what you're seeing tonight.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. It is an emergency reading, so we'll do a public hearing. If I care about math errors. All right, thank you very much for your attendance. The public hearing is closed. Council, staff, any other additional comments? Thank you, Eagle Eye Brian, for catching all those things that some of us miss, myself included. Thank you. All right, we are done discussing. Judy, if you could do a voice call vote.
Hausch.
Yes.
DeVore Leonard.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Gustafson.
Yes.
Stokes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for that. Now to the reading of Resolution 2024-64. Judy, if you do that by title only.
This is committing $113,000 from the Green Space Fund to Tecumseh Land Trust for the purpose of conserving farmland located outside of the village urban service boundary.
Thank you, Judy. Can I get a motion?
So
Do we need a motion? We're going to do it anyway. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Thanks. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry for me jumping the gun there. Who wants to talk about this?
It can be either one of the two Burnses. How's that?
Okay. All right. Let's flip a coin. Flip a coin.
So,
alphabetical order.
This is just authorizing me to be able to work with Michelle up to $113,000 for her trying to secure some land.
Okay. Michelle, you want to add any comments? You look agreeable.
Michelle Burns, Executive Director of Tecumseh Land Trust. I don't really have anything to add since I was here 2 weeks ago, so only if you have questions, but yes, totally agreeable to Johnny's
All right.
comments.
All the Burnses are in agreement? Council, any questions, comments? Okay, hearing none. Oh, sorry.
Well, just to throw out there, not that it needs to be any change, but I did learn that the township went back and recalculated, and so they're actually donating $120,000 towards the cause. So just since we brought that up last time, I thought just so everyone was updated.
We will probably get there one way or another.
I'm sure.
Okay. If there is no other comments, we'll go ahead and, Judy, if you could call the roll. Why not?
Sure. Brown?
Yes.
Gustafson?
Yes.
DeVore Leonard?
Yes.
Hausch?
Yes.
Stokes?
Yes.
Thank you.
We are now to citizen concerns. This is where the public is allowed 3 minutes. Judy will be our timekeeper. 3 minutes to discuss topics that are not already on the agenda. And since the crowd has thinned out, I won't say much more about that. But the floor is open for citizen concerns. So, Dorothy, since Bob was started already, I'd like him to go on.
Okay, I'll try again. Sorry about that, Judy. So I'm Bob Curley. I'm a lifelong resident. I've been involved in soccer, youth soccer here in town for decades. In about 2010 or 2011, we formed the Yellow Springs Soccer Incorporated, and the primary goal of that was to gift the schools money to improve the fields, and we did that. It was very successful. There was regrading. Our biggest mistake was never taking before pictures, but they're now much flatter. They drain much better. The turf is thicker. It's much hardier. That was $130,000 in 2010 money. Of course, that was to an existing grass field, so I'm sure that any improvements to, say, a farm field or anything to bring it up to standards of soccer fields would be much more expensive today. But I wanted to bring that up just so you know a little bit of the history. Fast forward to this winter or early spring, and those involved in youth soccer, just like most of the rest of the town, were informed through the grapevine that there was this project going on to perhaps sell that land off. We kind of gathered our forces, and we were invited to a school board member's house a little bit after the fact, we felt, but better late than never. And at that meeting, it was discussed, and we were discussed alternatives for soccer fields. We were pretty adamant, and I can go into detail on this. And Brian, I did receive your email today about the upcoming meeting, and that's probably the appropriate time to discuss this in more detail. But the Gaunt Park is not really a sufficient alternative for the youth soccer for many reasons. The softball fences, the crowds, the softball games, the parking issues. We can go into great detail on that. But we were led to believe after this, it wasn't a formal meeting, but that the schools would look for an adjacent property to replace the soccer fields if, in fact, this process went forward. We were then told that it would not be an adjacent property necessarily. And the latest I'm seeing now is that we're looking at Gaunt Park again. So we feel we've raised our concerns, and in my opinion, I'm not speaking for all of us involved in youth soccer, but it feels to me like we've been paid lip service, but we're back to what the powers that be wanted in the very first place anyway, without truly taking our concerns into consideration. Notwithstanding, I do appreciate the opportunity for the meeting in front of the council, perhaps in a week or less. So that's where we stand. That's where I stand as someone who's been involved in youth soccer for quite some time.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
And just probably good to clarify what Bob's referring to. So one of the commitments that the task force, LIHTC task force, made was to a broader outreach with sports stakeholders, recognizing that came a little bit late the first time, and we want to make sure we hear from everybody. And that meeting has been scheduled for Thursday from 11 to 12:30. So just as an FYI, so Terry and Johnny will be there, a variety of community sports stakeholders, soccer, baseball, softball, etc. John Gudgel is submitting something, and so we'll have a lot of good information. Thanks for mentioning it, Bob.
Yep, thanks for that, Brian. Dorothy?
Hi, I'm Dorothy Bouquet. I'm a villager. I'm also a school board member, but I'm here in private capacity of a villager that has questions and concerns about the report that I've seen under item 6 of your agenda, the LIHTC update. So I'll start with the questions because I hope that you'll be able to answer them tonight. The first question is, what happens if the lien removal documents or the lien removal is not approved by December 1st? How does that change the timeline? The second question is, I wanted to know how much the village has spent from their allocated budget for legal fees here. Where are you at in that budget that you have? I've heard questions from neighbors about, or concerns from neighbors about this project leading to an increase in utility costs for existing villagers. Is there any light that, Johnny, you can cast on that? I think that to reassure them if there is no worries about that, or to set new expectations if there are in fact worries about that. And then, has there been any other official estimate besides the one that is referred to on page 7 and page 15 of your document that came in, and what the total cost of that? I'll go to my concerns next. I saw the estimate in your packet. I saw that the summary, the narrative of it on page 7 said $400,000, but when I did the math, it came up to $560,000. So I'm not sure here why the narrative gave a smaller number than what the total of the estimate by Fillmore Constructions was. I'm concerned, of course, about how the LIHTC project is negatively impacting the odds of the district to pass the levy. I've heard it too many times. I'm really, really concerned about the impact, about how the residents of the villagers are tying the LIHTC project to the school levy. The school levy is about renewing the operating funds that the district is currently using. It's not a tax increase, and it's about paying teachers' salary. And then I'm concerned about the rec soccer programs being moved away from the campus, because those rec soccer programs were feeding the high school athletic programs, and we want to make sure that we have a sustainable, a viable way to keep those athletic programs going for the benefits of everybody. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Dorothy. Yep.
It's Dirk Lakovich Van Gorp again, village resident. All of you have received written communications, which is my normal style. Probably going, I wish you would stop sending written communications, but that is pretty much me. I do have some concerns over the LIHTC project and the process that you're involved in. First of all was my concern about the ESC. That's been stated. I'm not going to restate it. Secondly, I'm concerned that the council communicate very clearly an accurate budget if it's $560,000, which from my perspective is somebody that deals with this type of development and costs, just like Johnny does in his role. Wouldn't surprise me if it's that much. Where's the money going to come from? Communicate it clearly to the taxpayers and residents of the village. It is not, we know, going to come from the developer. It's not possible. It's not going to come from the school. That's been clear. So let's have some fiduciary clarity about exactly how much it's going to cost on a realistic figure. A point that I'd like to make just from my professional life, working with just about every housing program in the state of Ohio, there seems to be misunderstanding about LIHTC, or at least perhaps it's not intentional. It's like this is the opportunity for the village to get $15 million. No, it's not. It's the opportunity for a developer to find investors who will receive a 9% low-income housing tax credit those investors typically being insurance companies, banks, private equity, who will own 90% of this project, typically, if you want to check out OFHA. So I think we just need to be clear when we're talking about this is an opportunity for the village to get $15 million. No, it's an opportunity for the village to gain an affordable housing project under LIHTC, and the investors in that project receive in exchange for their investment that make the $15 million possible a 9% tax credit for 10 years on other profits that they're making elsewhere. I just wanted to make that clear also. My last concern is, as someone who deals in my professional life with RFPs or requests for quotations or requests for proposals and quotations or whatever form you want to put on it, that in my opinion, there's no realistic possibility that you will get a field of applicants at this late stage for you to make the best choice of the best developer overall. You may get a couple of applicants that say, yeah, we can pull this off by the letter of January 7th and following, but it's just not going to be possible. And I think 2 years ago I provided to the village a list of about 20 such developers, also to the YSDC. Unfortunate that no action was ever taken on that. It was one of my recommendations at the time that you seek such. But I really don't think you have time to choose the strongest, the best, and the most conducive for affordable housing in Yellow Springs. And I'm all for you getting LIHTC, just in a correct and complete process. Thank you.
Thank you, Dirk.
Everybody's sharing very insightful information to council and community members. My name's Mitzi Miller. I support Carmen Brown's letter to council. Too much time and energy and finance and obstacles and restrictions have all impacted have impacted reaching these timelines for this project. I am concerned about the cost of the replacement soccer fields, including the costs associated with re-engineering the fields to make them playable. Does the village intend to pay those costs? Today we learned that the cornfield lead conversion costs would be in excess of $450,000 plus, probably. Who's paying for this? The school district can't afford it. Villagers are feeling strapped with high utilities, income tax issues, and the cost of living expenses. If the plan is to move to Gaunt Park, what are your costs associated with it, and who is paying for it? This has already been addressed, but I'm glad to hear that the Youth Soccer League and the Village Council are meeting together to consult with one another. I'd like to hear from the village manager how this project has impacted the staff's workload, the number of hours spent on this project, and what is the dollar figure. I'm confused about the RFP process. How can you put one out without basic questions being answered? There was a memo included in the packet with questions St. Mary's answered. Does this mean you're intending to work with them again and forego the RFP? Villagers deserve transparency. These questions affect the project and they have not been answered. If the village is paying these costs, is it going to be in the budget for next year? There are many villagers, including me, who are concerned about the costs and how village funds are being spent. I'd personally like to see the village put an affordable housing levy on the ballot and let the voters decide the direction we should move forward versus a select group. There are too many unanswered questions to meet this deadline by December 1st, and it's having a negative effect on our school system and our village. I would be concerned about the levy too, and I would also be concerned about the village's levy coming up. Voting yes for the sake of considering something is better than nothing should not be the answer. Doing what is right for our community, our residents, and children needs to come first. Thank you.
Thank you, Mitzi. Dino.
Hello, Dino Pallotta, resident. I would entitle this Wants versus Needs. Council, in particular, Mr. House and Mr. DeVore Leonard, seeing this quote from Fillmore Construction, and I've done the totals again. You had in your list 400,000. There was two things that were left off the list. Makes it a total of $535,000 on this quote. Regarding the replacement fields, and I want to make sure that I understand this. You had a $900,000 need for sidewalks in Fairfield Pike. That was expensive, and you chose not to do it. While I may not understand your decision, I respect how you got to it due to the cost of the project. That was in with that grant. It makes perfect sense, and I get it. I'm with you on it. However, you now have a full quote of $535,000 for a want for new soccer fields that are not needed. You're potentially spending taxpayers' money on something that is not needed because it's already in existence for the community and the kids. So I just want to make clear, I want to make sure I understand it. You're willing to spend an additional $535,000 on a want that is not needed at the taxpayer's expense to build new soccer fields that are already currently in existence. Does that make sense what I'm saying? I don't know if I'm making myself clear. I just wanted to get that through. Mr. House, Mr. DeVore Leonard, I find your actions as leaders of the community while sitting on this dais unconscionable in pursuit of your narrative. That kind of logic doesn't make sense to me. And please, just help me understand your thought process, which includes spending taxpayers' money unnecessarily in duplicating of efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Dino.
Thanks, Dino.
Excuse me. Any other citizen concerns? Okay. You flinch. I'm going to look at you, but I think we're good. We're good. Thank you, everyone, for your participation. We're moving on from citizen concerns. We have no special reports, so now we're down to the manager's report. And I'm going to guess that's you, John.
It's me. I'll take this one. Let's see, street fair went off very well. The crowd was not over. It didn't meet June's expectations, but it was enough.
Did we? I heard it was also.
We had a drone flyover. We have not been able to analyze that yet, but it was still a good time, good crowd, good weather. Everybody got to go home safe, and to my knowledge, there was only one vehicle towed that was causing a problem. But we had challenges, but we got through it. Let's see here, Doug Andrews, retired. He is now officially living in Indiana. He sold his house and everything. He has moved closer to his family. So we wish him the best. He will be coming back, believe this or not, he'll be coming back to assist in June and October for street fairs. Wow. So he loves us so much.
Oh, that's so nice.
So strategic planning, council knows we put that on hold until after the first of the year to where we can get a really good focus on strategic planning. I'll be bringing back a resolution next council meeting to purchase a transformer for the school for the new high school so we can help them with cost-saving measures to be able to get that transformer on order. It is a 32-week lead item. Once we order it, they will invoice us and the schools will reimburse us, but I got to have the money there to be able to purchase it. So the schools have committed to, as soon as we get the invoice in, they'll run down and pay it. But it is, again, 32 weeks out, but we should have it here in plenty of time for their, we're going to loan them a 750 kVA transformer in the meantime to where that can help through the construction phase, and then when they really need a transformer, it should be on site.
And so what we're loaning them is the exact size, I think?
We're loaning them at 750. They won't need a 3,000 kVA transformer until the school is fully operational.
Okay, gotcha.
So you should have received the first one of the kind of the new invented grapevine. 6 years in the making, but we finally got her done, thanks to Ben and the team. I think it's going to go over very well. I was very happy to receive, Ben brought me the first copy. So, and as a matter of fact, it's framed in my office. He's put it in a picture frame for me. So that was a win for me to get that out there, and we'll be redoing it again probably end of December, 1st of January to be able to keep things going, and it'll be done quarterly.
Okay.
But just so you guys know, it went to everyone in the 45387 area code, 2,931 addresses. And then we have some extras. We put them in Young's Dairy, Dino's, the hotel. Ben walked and put 25 to 50 copies on all those so the tourists can look at them and say, hey, we want to move here, and they'll know what they're looking at. So just so you guys are aware of that. Hurricane cleanup is still happening. We are way behind on it because there's a lot more than what we ever thought. So we may be even trying to get help from tree service to be able to help us, because maybe some of it's being cut down now and being piled up later after we get done. So we need to get it all done so we can count that one as a job completed. Note for October 25th on Friday, we are closing the window due to staffing shortage on the utility window. We're closing at 4 versus 4:30, just so if you're coming in to pay your utility bill on the 25th, you'll have to put it in a drop box outside the window or in the parking lot. Asphalt, you guys may have already seen it. You may have already experienced it in the traffic delays, but hopefully it will be done by Wednesday or Thursday. This whole section here, the section on Xenia Avenue, they had to mill some down about 6 inches to be able to correct the asphalt problem that we had going on. Some of it is deteriorating railroad tracks underneath that they didn't want to remove about 25 years ago, so they're coming back to haunt us now. So, but we're getting that taken care of. They will be moving over to Lawson Place after they get that part done. Brad and I met with an engineering firm to walk through about getting us a price for a capacity study on the wastewater treatment plant, so you'll be seeing some stuff coming up pretty soon. We're going to be trying to get some other quotes on that as well. EPA requires it at 80%, and we're right there, so we're trying to get ahead of the game. So we're not waiting until it's 80% and we're being told, so we're being proactive. Brad had a tour for the AWWA. He said today that his number is wrong. They actually had 70 people out there. So they walked the water treatment plant and toured the facility. We actually have the director of the EPA for Ohio is going to be at the water plant tomorrow. So he's supposed to call me if I'm not in budget. I can run out there and meet with him as well. But doing a fantastic job out there. You may have seen our new little Vegas lights downtown. More to come, but they have already started slowing people coming down in town because they say it's 25 when it's 25. So bright lights will show you what speed you should. Either they're going to be in your rear view mirror or you'll be looking at them at a sign, but bright lights are going to slow you down. So we have a couple more that we're going to be putting on Dayton Street, and we'll be reducing the speed limit on Dayton Street, starting about Kenneth Hamilton, Limestone area, is 35 all the way to High Street right now, in Stafford. So we're going to be reducing it because it really needs to be reduced.
So you're saying start at the Limestone turnoff?
From Kenneth Hamilton?
Yeah.
As soon as you hit Kenneth Hamilton, that'll be your first 25 mile per hour speed limit sign. Going by Vernay's, it's not as congested, but as soon as you start coming into the residentials, we're going to drop it to 25.
Yeah. Well, not to mention that turn in on Limestone
Correct.
is problematic.
The turn in, yes, it is problematic because people try to take it at a high rate of speed. And we have ordered like speed bumps, but they're more of a basketball style, and they'll be mounted there to where if they do hit them, they'll be made aware to slow down and make that turn the proper way next time. The gym door, just people know, they see it on my report. For some reason, somebody decided to kick the door open, so we had to make some major repair on the front part of the gym. It was aggressively kicked and had to damage the lock, so that's the reason why that note is on there. Ben is out. He wasn't able to get a lot of his report done. There'll be some more pictures coming up. But you'll see the residential electric meters will be starting in January, and then hopefully within about 4 months we'll be done with those. Gearing up for that, the water meters are going great, and they've got about, I'd say a little over half of them done, and actually a lot of them inside. I think they're 60-something% on the 63% on the inside is done. So those are going very well. The House Bill 168, the water line replacement, is nearing completion. They're finishing up the house services, but all the mains are installed. And then we'll be able to close that project out as well. Samantha, Michelle left, she told me they raised about $2,500 for parking cars on street fair for the youth center, so they're taking their Kings Island trip. And thank you for everybody that paid with the parking. So, and the volunteers, I mean, they was out there all day from the time it started till the time it ended, so. Man. And then Civica Plus, got to say it again, you got to sign up. Since the newsletter went out, we've only had 40 people sign up. It's 40 more than what we had before the newsletter, but Ben is making that effort to get that done as well.
Good. Well, I'll still tell people.
I do all the time.
All right.
I have a quick question. This is just so that I'll remember. Johnny,
yes.
Do we know if we can get any funding from ODOT for they have that new safety corridor? It's a couple years old for speed reduction on like 68 is I think it's called ODOT Safety Corridor Initiative. I'm trying to Google it, but it's not working. But I wanted to get that out there because they put some money into improving safety on state highways.
Okay.
State routes.
And a side note, I did talk with Jason today on Fairfield. You guys may have seen that email from him. I did talk to him. He does not want the speed bump removed. It is doing its job. The people beeping their horns are going across it. You will be starting to get notified by the local police department if you indeed are doing the harassment. That was put there for a safety measure, and not just because somebody complained. We have them now all over the neighborhoods. We have one on Limestone. We're going to go back on Limestone, but there's probably going to be 3 going down Fairfield before the end of the year, and they probably will not be yellow and black. They'll be actually permanent. I have a quote coming in for 3 permanent ones, one at Ridgecrest, one at where the temporary is, and then one at Fair Acres. Because there are still cars that we lost part of the one that we had out there because somebody decided to park the back tires on it and start just spinning out on it and actually broke it, and then they picked it up and took it and left the metal studs, so we actually had to go out and take the metal studs.
Good job, guys.
So if that makes too hard to slow down to 25, go a different route.
Yeah.
And it's your local neighbors. It's not out of towners, it's local neighbors. So
Surely no
We need to put the kindness banners back up.
Yeah.
At each end.
There you go, the yard signs.
We could put one right above the speed bump.
All right, any other questions for the village manager regarding the
Well, I think
manager's
just
report?
since we're talking about traffic safety, so did we get any kind of final thing with choice one about the
study?
Yeah.
No, I just signed the PO last week and sent it.
Okay.
It's for the one area on Dayton Street, but they have not given me a number for the entire village yet.
Gotcha. And then I guess it came up at the Active Transportation Committee meeting, just is that going to involve recommendations for where speed bumps should be and some of those and other traffic
calming measures is what I've asked for.
Okay, so that should be included.
It should be that or bump outs or anything.
Okay, great. Thanks. I like the safety squirrel, by the way. It's kind of ironic.
It is. Number one cause of the alley.
Yo.
I love it. Any other questions for the village manager before we move on to old business? All right, seeing no activity there, we're moving on to old business, and somebody named Burns, well, you're the only Burns here now. So, Johnny, you've got the update on the purchase of the 3.6.
I guess I would ask if I'm trying to find it. Everybody has read it. I assume Meg did a fantastic job. Meg and Elise did a fantastic job of getting it updated as much as we can. Let me go back to the $1 million or the $400,000 question. Option one is if we can get equipment to it, it's just $400,000. But the driveway's not available, the bike path's not available, but to make that adder is another $75,000 for a temporary road. So I only put in the hard cost for the soccer fields to replace it if the equipment was sitting on site. Because who knows, we might be able to get it in there another way. I wanted to have it broke out. To go to the other question, Terry Holden did get another quote. She actually sent my quote to another company. They did apple to apples, and their quote is $650 for the same first two items. We're not getting a quote for water. We're not proposing to do it, but we wanted to know what the water was. One quote that her one item that she had on hers is if there was a parking lot, it was added $3,500 for each space. So $3,500 for one, $7,000 for two. That's their methodology behind it. So there is a second quote, and it is on the website, Brian. We put that on there today. Cool.
Well, and speaking of which, do you want to highlight that we have the webpage?
Yes, the webpage is up. It's under LIHTC, correct? Anything that we have that's the most up to date, we send to Ben. Ben puts it in there as we get it. He put a couple things in there today that we received, and then so it is up to date. As soon as we get information, we'll put it in there. The St. Mary's letter. I'll address that one while I'm here. That is the questions that I asked for back in May. That is the reason why that St. Mary's letter is in there. Those are the questions. I actually was able to get a hold of another lady by the name of Denise Blake. She said, send me the questions and I'll answer all the questions. And so I felt that I still needed to put it in there. I'm not saying we're partnering with St. Mary's. That's the information from the questions that I asked for back in May. So that is the reason why that is on the website as well. And I just thought I'd clarify that. I think that's really about what I needed to.
There was something about the appraisal.
The appraisal is still 3 weeks out. They've had the signed quote. I've given them all the information that he asked from us, what the zoning would be. I said it was being voted on tonight for RC. So he's watching the meeting. So he'll make it RC now. And then he asked me for some other evaluations that he had done in the past, and I was able to send them to him as well. Okay. So it's still 3 weeks out. He told me it'd be 3 to 4 weeks. So Hopefully, it's going to be sooner, but 3 weeks at the minimum.
Okay, so probably beginning of November? Or?
Beginning of November is going to be close.
3 weeks at the maximum, right?
4 weeks is maximum.
Okay.
He said 3 to 4.
Okay. Oh, you said 3 weeks. I see, okay.
So he's had it for about a week. So at the earliest we would see is probably 2 weeks. We had to update the timeline with the new RFP that we've got proposed in there. So we have done the update on the timeline. It's very tight. So the other, I don't think there's any other questions.
Can you, do you feel, I mean, we've talked about it. If you don't feel comfortable, I understand, but do you feel comfortable talking about the question around cost of utilities?
The cost of utilities, just because there's another house coming in, is not going to raise or lower you. It is definitely not going to raise the cost for anybody. If we have added water and added sewer, they're paying their tap fees, they're paying the capacity fees, and then we're just going to provide the same services we provide to everybody.
So just to clarify on that, so I know when we were talking about a past development, we said electric wouldn't change, but more users mean that sewer and water can go down. Is that?
It would have to be a massive development. I mean, you're talking 300 to 500 homes, but you also have to go up in charge because now you're going to be taking more chemicals, more time, more samples. So I don't think you're going to see a cost savings for 500 homes coming in and we saying, oh, we're going to save you 50 cents. I don't see that happen because the more houses we have, the more we have. So we'll get more income, more readiness for service.
So you think it averages out?
I think it's on average out.
Okay.
So I just want to talk about the letter really quickly that I put in the packet. Because there's a lot of talking around it. But according to Tim Beat, in 2024, he stated that he believed that St. Mary, at least St. Mary, believed that it was not feasible for the Village Council and School Board to navigate the approval and zoning processes required for either the CBE or school site by the deadline. This statement from Tim Beat at the time and now, kind of this new person. And the reason why I use the word restrictions is because a restriction isn't a challenge. A restriction is not a challenge. A restriction is not a difficulty. And quite, it's kind of the opposite of that thing. A restriction is basically a no. We have not secured the 3.6 acres. If this were a regular process, it's like 30 to 60, sometimes 90 days to get land that's not under these restrictions. I have opinions. Going through this process as a person that would income qualify for this housing has been an incredibly harrowing experience for me because of what I hear about people who would qualify for this housing. We just heard a resident say something about vetting the population, and then how will people get around? Well, I have a car that I make a car payment for. I would still income qualify. So what people, it's really, really easy to be kind of classist on both sides because nobody, I don't want to do this part of it. So whatever, it's been really harrowing. It's been very eye-opening. But the bottom line is that the Chodo stated that in their estimation, we were not going to be able to navigate the approval and the zoning process as required because the land is essentially collateralized. There's a lien on it. And yes, we're moving. They can do what Antioch and what Antioch and Cresco did. No answer is an answer. And the analogy I've been using is if I go to the bank and say, look, I need some money because I have this project I'm working on. And the bank says, well, how much do you need? I give them X amount. And then I say, here, I have my car. And then I go back to the bank and say, you know what? I think that I want to sell my car. That's not a thing. And sometimes it requires a layperson's oversimplification when we're dealing with these things. But I was very succinct in the letter, and I want everybody, if you haven't read the letter, to read the letter and think about the very real impact negatively that this is having on this community. And me, I want to be able to go to the Emporium and get coffee and maybe a sandwich without 3 people stopping me. I want to be able to go to the dog park without it becoming a conversation. So that's the personal. And then what I wrote is the facts that we have to work with. And I'd like to ask the solicitor, if you would, do you agree with this letter? What issues do you see with this letter as far as the facts are concerned?
I don't think I saw any factual issues.
She didn't see any factual issues, she says.
So you agree that the timeline is not likely?
I won't sit in the middle again. The timeline is extremely challenging, and we are now in, limbo, waiting to hear back from U.S. Bank and BAM. And I don't mean to suggest any I don't mean the negative connotations of that on them as businesses, but this is just simply a request that's been presented to them, and they'll get to it in all due time. Whether or not that happens next week or in 2 weeks or in a month, I can't speak to. And a topic that we haven't yet discussed tonight is legal fees, and where that number is, and as we move forward, if more fees need to be incurred, because chances are, when the response does come back from U.S. Bank and or BAM, there may be more conversations to be had and more negotiations. So it may not be as simple as, okay, we've reviewed it, we're on board, where do we sign? There could be further conversations to be had, all the more making the timeline extremely challenging.
And extremely challenging is extremely challenging.
Yeah, it is.
Extremely challenging. Let's just throw around percentages. Like in your estimate, I know that you can't. I know that you can't.
And also, can't. This is a very unique ask, first of all, of the lien holders, and this is not my area of law.
Right.
We have bond attorneys that are working at Bricker that are working on this, and the documents have been submitted. They are unable to give me a timeline. So, though I prefer to be able to say, I think we have a 40% chance or a 75% chance of X, Y, and Z. I just can't do it here. We are completely in limbo on that. So factually, I don't see any concerns here because, as you say, in your opinion, given this information, it's likely not possible. That is absolutely a true fact. It is probably at this point. But then again, we can't foreclose the fact that they could come back tomorrow. Right? Who knows? I simply don't know.
So one of the things that I wanted to point out is what the president of St. Mary Development Corporation stated in May. That was in May. And what I agreed to was $20,000 to see if we could get the liens lifted.
Right.
And we've gone everywhere. And it's impacting a lot in this community. So that being said, if we're not going to listen to the Chodo, then what are we doing?
In terms of going everywhere, where the legal work is concerned, the vast majority of it has been focused on getting the liens lifted, as we discussed. Some of it has been on the rezoning and some of the planning and zoning issues that have gone into the application and those steps. But for the most part, it has been focused on the lifting of the liens or the request.
Yeah, and then the soft costs, which are really hard costs, but the soft costs and the taxing on staff is also it also concerns me.
And the strategic plan's being moved till after the first of the year. I mean, staff doesn't have time to devote to that. I mean, are we even going to get it done in 2025? And that's like, having a car without a driver, right? We have no plan.
We're not blaming the strategic planning on this, right?
We've had to we've not been able to focus on anything with the strategic plan because Elise is actually trying to help do the LIHTC stuff as well.
Okay, well, and before that, she was doing a lot of records,
Correct.
retention and everything, so filling in some gaps. So since we're presenting this as facts, Amy Blankenship, number 5, the property must be owned by the village by December 1st.
So that's a statement that was put out there by St. Mary in the correspondence with Johnny. So if it's that is St. Mary's.
That was clarified in what's in the packet.
Right, so it changed or clarified, what's the difference, and when do we get that information?
Has it been clarified?
The language was owned by, and now the language is a purchase option, so which one is it?
So it is, if they've confirmed, I didn't realize that they'd confirmed.
Yeah, based on the meeting we had on Wednesday, which I know you weren't able to attend, Carmen,
Right.
we did say that we were going to follow up because not everybody's being as precise about language. But
Well, I wasn't there, so what I had and what I had and was not privy to was the language was owned by the village, and so now it's not owned by the village?
It's what it's always been since September, which is signed option to purchase by December 1st.
Right. The confusion, I think, or the document that we received from St. Mary, as I've seen it, says owned by December 1st.
Right.
There was discussion on Wednesday about speaking to them about whether an option would suffice. Did that happen?
I did not.
Yeah, that's why it was changed. Well, you know that because
right, they copied me on Brian's email.
Yeah, everybody was, Johnny and Judy were copied. So
a signed option to purchase on land that we can't purchase.
It said it's signed option to purchase.
Okay.
Like what's in the packet. And both Amy and I expressed that we were skeptical that it meant this.
Yes,
all right?
but it is what was in the St. Mary document.
Which is why we clarified.
In which St. Mary documents?
The chain of email conversations.
But not
correspondence.
Not in May, and not October 7th, because there was
the October 7/October. The update
17th.
one, whatever that document is that's in Johnny's
October 17th, they revised the
17th.
document
Yeah.
to say option to purchase.
Okay, so it was revised on the 17th.
Right.
Okay, so I didn't have that information I didn't have that information.
I didn't catch that either.
Right.
I didn't have that information before I wrote this.
Correct. Yes. So.
Bet.
Yep. And it was confusing, and I'm glad we clarified it.
Me too.
The only other thing I do want to just give some context to some of the facts here, and that is that in May, we were going nowhere. And 4 months later, we made a lot of progress. And we've also checked off one of the 3 benchmarks, which is rezoning in place. So we've got the documents in for the lien removal. I believe we're going to know that relatively soon. And then we've got to get that appraisal for the option to purchase. So anyway, but I do think we were in a different place in May, and I know it seems like 3.5 months later is surprising, but it was enough for our local Chodo to say, we see a pathway.
Homie, are you guys a Chodo?
I'm not sure that's...
You mean local Chodo? You mean St. Mary?
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
so it says CBE or school site. So we're
Right.
that just goes away. So whatever the statement that was made in May by St. Mary just goes away as far as you're concerned.
Because we were not in a good place there, and then we passed resolutions, letters, meetings.
Okay.
So I believe that's what they saw. That okay, and I think, but anyway, yeah. So I think it goes away.
Okay.
But otherwise, I agree. These other things are accurate.
Sure. Oh, okay. And then you're ready to wrap up this one.
Yeah, I did want to ask clarification around the Phase 1 ESA, environmental site assessment. Are you under the impression that that has to be completed prior to December 1st? Because
No.
I don't think that it does.
Right.
Okay,
Yep.
just clarify, because that was one on the list.
Yeah, I mean, I guess must be conducted to do the purchase.
There's a lot of due diligence that we may not have time to do due diligence.
Yeah,
That's all I'm saying. That's it. I don't have anything else to say about it myself.
Yeah, the only reason I jumped up was just to say that is something that the developer would pay for, incur, and undergo. And a lot of purchase options are often structured with contingencies. So contingent upon ABC, getting LIHTC funding, getting, identifying and securing replacement land, et cetera. And then also, I just wanted to sort of reiterate my understanding, which I can't speak for St. Mary, I'm not St. Mary's leadership, but I do think that what they were reacting to is a perception of just the political will, not necessarily the steps that had to be taken, so.
Duly noted.
Which was also, but the letters, no, you're good.
Okay.
So you're so good.
I think we're good. Johnny, you want to wrap up this?
Yeah,
old
as
business
far as legal cost, at 5:45, Amy gave me the October's bill. To date, it's $18,938.50.
Well, not October's bill.
Well, you gave me
Including October's bill.
You're right, including up to this point.
What was that, 18 what?
$18,938.50.
10 more hours.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean
Well, the good news is we've got the documents submitted. That's what needed to happen. And so it seems like we estimated pretty well.
We shall see. And I agree. We are close, and we're close on the dollar figure, and I hope we're close on the work that needs to be done from a legal perspective. Thank you, Johnny. You want anything else on that before we hand it off to Meg?
We're going to Meg.
All righty.
If she's still awake.
So new business. The draft RFP discussion for proposed East Enon site. And the 30 minutes was just a suggestion, I think.
30 minutes?
Wow.
You know how much I love.
And you can't give Johnny any of those 30 minutes, so.
It's all mine.
Well, tag team is the order of the night, so yeah, if you tag with somebody, they can take over.
I really didn't have too much to talk about. I guess just looking for feedback. I had provided, at the direction of council, we put together a draft request for proposal. And I guess just getting you some background, I did some research with Amy, and everyone kind of gave ideas on different entities to model it after. We ended up modeling after one that was really similar in Cleveland City. Also looking for, they actually own the land, and that's somewhat how I modeled this, is after us owning it. And in this situation, we would have an option with the school and then enter into another option, I suppose. So it's Cleveland City, and they own the land, and they were looking for a LIHTC partner as well. So modeled it a lot after that, but then like some nuances, switched it up to be specific to the village. And want to thank Elise for her beautifying of it. I think looking for the council just for input on different components. Ideally, we'd have, obviously more time to really dig into it, but we have a really short window. One concern that I have is just the really, really short window because we're in the time frame. We have November. We have two more. Well, not two more. We have kind of 1, 2, 3. November council meetings, too, in November and then December 2nd, to try to get everything kind of directed to those meetings and decisions from the council of all these different actions that need to occur is going to be challenging. So the RFP, if you had thoughts on that, and then I'm assuming that the task force that we created with Carmen and Brian would be the ones that would help, like, in reviewing responses. So if you have thoughts on that, also different components of it. Trying to think of highlighting. I think that's all I really wanted to say. I want to kind of see what you guys think about it.
Yep, so I see we're planning to release this as soon as November 8th, which is next Friday, or some Friday. Yeah, it's a Friday.
So in order to put, so on land value, what do we put there?
The appraisal.
Right, so that's if we have it back by November right. Because we can't put it out with some dollar signs like
No,
that.
right, no, you're right.
That's not a good look.
All right, this is very draft.
No, I know.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say.
No. I'm totally playing. Like, how much? And that's the kind of the problem that I'm having. A lot of this is like, how much? Well, we're not sure yet. So if we don't have the appraisal back, then this...
It would just delay it by whatever time.
Most ideally, we would have the appraisal back before the November 4th meeting for council so that we could bring in, talk about it. That would be the best scenario.
And that's like tops, 4 weeks tops or 3 weeks tops for the appraisal?
Well,
4 weeks?
He told me 4 weeks, and we're a weekend of him having it. So
okay.
There's a potential.
Okay.
That's the
chance.
And then,
Well, they know that we'd like to get it as soon as possible.
Well, yeah.
And then I know Amy, highlighted some concerns. She still needs to kind of, once we figure out, I guess, exactly like when we would be releasing it, we might need to make a couple adjustments for some of the language related to like the land available for development, because depending on, where we are, if we have a purchase agreement in place or not, it changes some things.
Well, the other thing is, if they look it up on the Greene County GIS, it's going to say that the school zone is not the village. So we need to be able to clarify.
Well, it'll be an option, right? So
that we have an option to buy it.
Right, but even with the option, that's not reflected on GIS.
Correct.
Okay.
So we'd have to identify that in the RFP.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think it looks great. Thanks, Mag. Thanks. Is Elise still here? Yeah, I'm not
Still there.
Yeah, I think the main things that we talked about at our Wednesday meeting, I see reflected. There were a couple little grammar errors that I can point out at some point that aren't a big deal. So, but I think it looks pretty good. I think the main thing is I just want to make sure it reflects that, the criteria is basically who's going to be most successful at securing and implementing a LIHTC project, but I think that's captured in here.
So, Brian, is the task force going to meet again, or has the task force already given what you feel is adequate input to this draft?
I think at this point, we'll make sure that
we need more input from Carmen, I think.
What's that?
Yeah. Well, you missed the last meeting, right?
Yeah. But I think, we'll make sure. So the village reps have looked at it, and Carmen obviously for this meeting. And then, I think we'll share it to our school counterparts. Obviously, Dorothy and Amy Bailey are already on it and will give us any feedback. Because that is really what we're looking for, right? Is, and that can be funneled through Meg, like what thoughts do you have? Because we will have another council meeting to finalize this before it's potentially sent out. So, yeah.
So before our next council meeting would be a good time to have gotten any other comments, any other meetings that need to happen in the meantime taken care of? So I'm just asking, is there a deadline for input?
The Friday before, or is it the Thursday before the next council meeting, whatever date that is?
November 3rd.
No.
No,
Subtract a little bit more.
the first.
First.
Yeah.
That's,
No, it's October 30th. It's
October 31st.
Halloween, guys.
Yeah, Friday's the 1st, yeah. So,
31st, yeah, that'd be
yeah,
great.
give us, yeah. You send some scary comments in. There you go. October 31st. So, yeah, anyone who has input, any pertinent parties that have input, the deadline.
And I think we had 30 minutes for this because we thought all the LIHTC conversation was going to happen, but it happened earlier, so.
Yes, it did.
Yeah,
All
we
right.
can just, wrap
Yeah.
that all in.
Thank you for that extra 15 minutes, Meg. You're so nice. You're so kind. All right. Well, thanks everyone for your participation so far. This is the second meeting of the month. If there are any board or commission reports that are in the packet that anyone would like to highlight, now is the time for that.
Well, I don't know if this is whatever, but the Finance Committee met, and just to give a quick note that we met earlier, no, that was last week, right? Last week? Yes. Sorry. We met last week, did a quick run through for our budget meeting that'll happen tomorrow, and just as a quick, kudos or whatever, that I feel like we're moving in the right direction, working with the Shared Resource Center, and there'll be a presentation tomorrow where things are gone over, but at least in my time on council, this is the most sort of clear and systematic information that we've had by a long shot. So it really feels like we're moving in the right direction, which is great. So I just want to say, you'll see, I think, what I'm talking about tomorrow, but just glad it's moving in that direction.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks Tiffany, who's our shared services person, and of course thanks Michelle, and thank you Johnny. Yeah, good.
And the Library Commission met. We finally had a meeting. We talked a lot about the lawn care, landscaping, and cleanup. Johnny's been out helping with his crew, but they also have hired somebody. But the biggest thing from the meeting is that there is a new member, and they have a conflict with Tuesdays, so we are moving in 2025 to the second Wednesday of the month. Did you see that?
So, is that the email from Tracy where there was, it seemed like it was irregular dates?
Yeah, and it's just to be able to accommodate that person.
Who's the new member?
Where is her name? Betty Kelly.
All right, yeah, Betty Kelly's great.
So.
I don't know. If it's one that they get automatically, that's fine. Otherwise, it has to go through council, so.
Well, let's talk about this offline. Yeah, because it's a different kind of commission.
Trish, did the times change? I can't remember. I thought we changed the times
To 5:30.
Yes.
Yeah, I had to put those on my calendar because it was sort of...
It wasn't finalized.
Okay.
It didn't change.
Okay. Thank you for that, Trish. You're welcome. Any other hair on fire, burning issues from boards and commissions?
Well, maybe I should just ask, so I pointed this out last time, but MVRPC is offering to do emission studies for local communities and also provide recommendations for how to address those. We need to let them know by the end of the month. Is that something that we think is a good idea to do? It's free.
Yeah. Well, you can't beat free.
Hang on a second. So what does that mean? Like, what are the details? Doing emission studies on what vehicles when?
So and it's related to also like buildings, and so they've got a model, and it's related to that comprehensive climate action plan that they're doing. So it could ultimately help us to secure funding, but I think they've got a model, they've got consultants, and so they would, I think, do the heavy lift, but I can double check about if there is anything that we would be required to do.
Yep. So in general, does council feel good about us moving forward with suggesting that we would want to participate as long as what we have to do is not insurmountable?
Yeah, assuming it's not a big time suck or something.
Yeah, so I think maybe the best thing to do is I'll see if there's any heavy lift on the municipality end, and maybe we could authorize Johnny to make the decision if it's a good use of staff time.
But you said the end of the month.
Yeah, so we wouldn't have another council meeting.
Right. I'm good. Well, is everybody good with that? I am. Gavin is. Brian is. That's the majority. I'm not discounting, but if you
Yeah,
want to
just
weigh in.
Staff time, yeah, we just have to be conscious of that.
Yeah, we'll be
I'll
conscious
get a
of that.
good, yeah, that's Matt Lindsay, so I'll find out from him.
Okay, cool beans. You good with that? All right, you all will take that ball and run with it. Future agenda items. Johnny, I know you mentioned a resolution.
Yes.
Next meeting regarding the transformer.
We got power coming up too.
I believe there's another power for purchase for power coming up.
Oh, really?
Oh, I need a heads up on that, because it was a long time ago, you said you weren't.
Okay, so in addition to what's already...
Correct.
Wow. Oh, okay. All right, yeah, I'm good. Yeah, so in addition to what's already on the November 4th, those two items, yeah, the transformer for the school and power
I've
purchase.
got that on.
Yep.
It's already on.
Okay.
So power purchase agreement, question mark.
I guess it's appropriate to mention here, I would like Planning Commission, when there is time, to review the gateway overlay. Because in looking more at that, there are a lot of reasons that I don't feel like it makes sense, particularly because it covers the CBE side as well. And I guess I've always imagined like one potential thing that could go on the CBE might be like a reasonably sized office building, which, you know, just kind of to invite people into. So not to get into that, but I think it would be good to review and decide if it still makes sense. So.
We are kicking a lot of stuff down the road due to all the overwhelming amounts of things. So
That's fine. I'm just saying when there's
Gateway
time.
District on some sort of meg list.
It's not my, I'll add time, this is zoning amendment.
Right.
Yeah. So Meg and I talked about it, but just again, if whenever time allows, I think it would be good to review.
Okay. As long as it's on a list somewhere, and we might not forget to do it.
Well, I won't forget.
Yeah.
Strategic planning, that is on the plan.
Yeah. 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 All right. Anything else for the good of the order? We're thinking.
Motion to adjourn?
All right, I will.
Second. Oh, yeah. There you go. Third.
All in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Have a great evening.